and welcome to another finely pitch-appropriate tuned dulcimer of an episode of Midlife Krisis. That's right. That's a medieval instrument, my friend. That's a Renaissance instrument. Excuse me. Excuse me. So this is going to be part 2 of our multiplayer chat. We are kind of having a deep dive talking about multiplayer gaming. In the first part, we talked about your, I'll say, soft sickness in terms of recent staying up super duper late and forgoing adult responsibilities to play multiplayer games.
Do you mean sickness is like sick?
Yes.
That's what you mean?
Guilty as charged. But so I want to do, there's a couple, you were talking about Sea of Thieves, and I have more questions about this game because I find Sea of Thieves to be interesting in that you want to talk about a game that's had like a slow burn. Like when it first came out, you did a little bit of chatter about it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's ever gotten like, screaming from the hilltops popular, but it has sustained for several years. It's what Rare does now. Like Rare, the developer that we grew up with, going all the way back to RC Pro AM, Daddy.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Like this is what they do now is make this one game. So I've got some questions about that game and like how the gameplay flow works and what have you. But I also wanted to talk about some other awesome multiplayer experiences that maybe you've had, maybe we've shared together, just throughout the years of multiplayer gaming. So let's start this off. We'll go back to Sea of Thieves talk. Now, maybe the best way to do this is because I downloaded that game when I first got the Xbox Series X because it was a thing that you could download and it was there.
It is free on Game Pass right now.
I think it's permanently free.
Yeah, if you're a subscriber. Yeah.
Isn't it though well, here we go. Question number 1 is it a free to play game? Like, would you quantify it as can you play it on PC? Is it a typical free to play game?
In fact, you are just going to love this next thing I tell you. Man, I'm starting to sweat. I haven't even told you the thing yet. It is not free. So I have a subscription to Game Pass. You can play it on Game Pass. Mm-hmm. You can also play it on Steam. Mm-hmm. And their crossplay is enabled. So if your friend has it on Steam, and you have it on Game Pass, you can still play together. However, your friend is such a lunatic that I bought it on Steam, paid money. It was on discount for 40% off, but I still paid money to have it on Steam, already having it on Game Pass where I had been playing it. Why? Why would I do that?
Why indeed would you do such a weird thing?
I really wanted the trophies, the achievements. Yeah. I was already getting them on Xbox, but by buying it on Steam, all the trophies I got on Xbox, I get to double up, and I got all these achievement tick-offs. And that game has, wait for it, it's the most I've ever seen in a game, 270 achievements in that game. 270.
So I'm just going to point this out. John Belushi died from what's known as speedballing, and that's when you take an upper and a downer of severe consequence and put them together at the same time
I just
to
take
keep
uppers.
your heart guessing.
I just take uppers.
It's just pure joy. Achievement uppers.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I bought it on Steam just for that, and it was so great. And it was at 4 o'clock in the morning too. I got to click play, and then the game comes on, and it's just like ding, 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 ding. I had 70 of the 270 trophies because I've only been playing for a couple months. So I had 70 of them. And I just got to sit there and just pure bliss. Like a casino jackpot going off.
All 7s, Daddy. All 7s.
And it's like, go on. More?
That's why you spent the money.
It's
of course.
It's the documentary guy. 50 million! That's what I was doing.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, you can play it on Steam or you can play it on Xbox. Your choice.
Yep.
Your choice. And I chose both.
The gentleman's choice was indeed both. Okay, so that threw me for a looper. I got to be honest with you. So it's not a free-to-play game in the traditional sense where there's no buy-in and you just sit there and throw money at them because you want gold hats or whatever it is.
Yeah, there is a cosmetic shop. And that's sort of the point, and I actually think this is a detriment to the game, but some people love it. The entirety of progression is just cosmetics. It's just like your pirate hat, your pirate outfit. You want a peg leg, you want a particular hook, you want customizations to your ship, certain looking sails, a certain looking anchor. Mm-hmm. You can buy all of that, but it's all cosmetic. There's no functional difference at all. And probably that was done in service of the PvP component of the game to make that feel equal. But for me, It's actually not that great. And to illustrate the point, even after I got good at the game and started playing with people who knew what they were doing, we started doing these events that got us a pretty obscene amount of gold. And it's relative, so this will mean nothing to you. But I had 3 million gold in the game, which is a fair amount. And most cosmetics cost somewhere between 10 and 20,000 gold.
Okay. So you're sitting pretty. You can
definitely
you can afford what you want.
I didn't spend a single gold because I didn't feel like I needed to. The game plays out in first person, so I had the original rags that you get at the start of the game.
Yeah.
While having $3 million in the bank, because I just didn't care.
That's a huge complaint I have with Halo Infinite, for example, is you get so for that first season, I bought the gimmick pass. They give them $10 and you can now unlock the second tier of crap, and it's neat. The hook is there, but in a first person game when you're unlocking cosmetics and you don't even get to see it. I mean, you can see a gun skin or a little stupid keychain that dangles off of your rifle. But by and large, it's for other people to enjoy what you've done in the game. Yeah. And I think that is just plumb stupid.
Well, especially because so much of the cosmetics shop is those cosmetics on your clothing.
Yeah.
Now, you can get cosmetics to improve your ship. And what, again, editor Wonder Mundo was saying, he's like, look, if you're floating around and you have a particular mast or sails, your sails look a certain way, people who know the game, if they see that you have those cells, they're going to know that you're very experienced in the game, you've done a lot, and they should probably not mess with you because you're not like some greenhorn, out on the seas for the first time. So there's sort of an intimidation factor there as well. But then the other part of it, and this is also a negative, it's also why you wouldn't like the game, and it was a significant turnoff to me, is that, man, the first time you do a PvE event and you get a whole bunch of chests of gold, and then you're driving or sailing those chests back to shore to sell, and then you get waylaid by some 13-year-olds.
Oh boy. Do I know that flavor of ice cream.
And they sink your ship and they take your gold.
Uh-huh.
The rage I felt, which was witnessed, unfortunately, by some of these people that I play with. And then they were emoting on me as the kids do, and I was like the old man with his fist at the cloud. I was like, they're emoting on us. They can't get away with this.
You're the old man that tries to stand up for himself and then gets beaten to death by teenagers. That's exactly what you are.
I was so mad. I was like, this is the worst fucking game I've ever played in my life. Why are we doing this? I think I literally said, if we don't do something better immeditely, I'm uninstalling this game right now. And then we did something better immediately, and it was okay. But it's but you have to be willing to put up with that, and then take the good with the bad, and then have the kind of personality that can deal with setbacks.
So when I first checked the game out, and again, this is I want to say it was one of the first Series X games that was on Game Pass, that was Series X optimized or whatever. That's the main reason why I downloaded it. It was Game Pass was this fresh new thing for me, and I just wanted to consume anything that I can get my greasy paws on. So I downloaded it, and I remember the beginning of it was such a slow start, to actually get going.
I hours slow.
And so right there, you've lost me. One of my biggest complaints about Skyward Sword for the Wii, which Nintendo did fix this on the Switch re-release of that, but we're talking about a Zelda game, right? We're talking about cream of the crop. This is some of the best that video games have to offer. And to get into the game of Skyward Sword, it's like a 4-hour long tutorial. Yeah. And I almost quit. I almost just maybe I don't need to want to play. I don't need to play this Zelda
Quitting
game.
a Zelda game.
Yeah.
One indictment.
Totally. So, but I mean, that's something for me. It's just it's one thing if you can hook me, if you have a really well done cutscene and I'm interested in the world and all that other stuff. If you can hook me good on you, I'm here for that. But if you're just basically telling me no, what we want you to do is watch this wet wall have dry. We want you to watch this paint dry.
It's the experience.
It's the journey. And that to me is that's what it kind of felt like. So I don't know if that's been improved. You're telling me it
really hasn't. Look, this game, if I was to give it a score, my score would be 79 to 82. It's in that range. It's fine. It's not. Yeah. It's definitely nothing I would have sought out on my own. The only way it works, the only reason it works, is if you're playing with people, if those people know what they're doing,
yes.
And if you're on comms together talking, that it works because of that, and that's the only reason. You can't be playing with random people, you can't be playing with new people. I tried both of those, it sucked. If you have friends, you're all working together, and your friends know what they're doing, you can sort of create fun experiences, because what multiplayer gaming allows for in a lot of these genres that single player games don't is emergent gameplay, because it's usually an open world. Maybe there's some other people, but when you're working together with other people, you can have things happen in the game. Helldivers is exactly like this as well, where something fun happens that wasn't really, you weren't expecting that, and then you all get kind of a fun moment out of it, as opposed to like a single player game where everything is it's like watching a directed movie a lot of times.
Right.
So I'm doing this that way, and that's why it works. If you're not doing it that way, then the game doesn't really work. The game is doing better now because the Ubisoft game came out and it sucked, but it made people think about pirates. So they went back to the good pirate games as opposed to the Ubisoft game.
That's so cool.
And then the game was, I think it was just launched in the spring. I think it just came out on Steam in the spring, or they did some kind of relaunch.
Yeah, that's right.
And that drew people into the game. So the population's actually pretty good right now, but it has been just sort of trucking along at roughly the same player count until this most recent uptick for a long time. Everybody seems to enjoy it, and I have sort of qualified reviews about it. This game as a game is just okay. This game as a multiplayer experience under the conditions that I described is super fun. And so really the point of this episode and this point that I'm making is that playing games with your friends can elevate an otherwise average game to be a lot more than
Sure.
that.
Yeah. Turns out.
Who knew? Yeah,
who knew something like that was possible?
Yeah. And then I mean, you see, I just like in the last episode, I was like, well, Brian, you don't actually do this that much. And then I was thinking, like, that's actually not true. You do this a lot. You just do it with Danny and with I. And then when I was making the Steam point to you about Portal 2.
Well, I also just to cut you off there, like I love playing games with you guys online when we do it, but I genuinely enjoy playing online games with strangers that don't fucking talk. Like, and I'm not even, that's not a joke. That's not me having fun with you. Like,
Yeah.
I love playing fighting games online when there's no chat. Because if I lose, then like, great. Like there's no exchange of shame or anything like that. It's just, thank you, sir. I will move on. But if I win, then like I get to like be like, all right, I got him.
This actually ties in just perfectly well. This is the last thing I'll say about Sea of Thieves, and then we can move on. But we were playing, and we did something cool in the game where there's like an NPC, like a mega pirate ship, and you can take down that pirate ship, but then you can commandeer it, and then you can use it for your own. And it's a better ship than any other ship you can normally just buy in the game. But you only get to use it for as long as you're logged in. So you're basically taking over an NPC pirate ship. So we had some ne'er-do-wells who were just pestering us and bothering us. But there's 4 of us on a large galleon ship, regular player ship, and then they're on a little 2-person ship. And so they said they wanted to form an alliance with us. We didn't trust them, so we just killed them, these kids. But then they resurrect, and they keep coming back, and then they just start saying this random crap. So one of the kids suddenly appears on the ship, and he's like, hey guys, you want some tacos? It's like, what are you doing?
See, now that's the kind of multiplayer chat I can get behind. Yeah, so absurdism is great.
So then we had to kill him again, but then he reappears again, and this whole time that he's doing, we're killing him over and over and over again, but we're also being distracted from the thing that we're trying to do, which is to get this loot and this sweet chest to bring back. So then we get the big pirate ship, and then they continue coming, and then at one point we had to finally say, like, you know what, we're done with this. And one of the things that you can do is you can scuttle the ship and then change servers, so you don't have to see those players anymore. And we did that. So it's like, on the one hand, it's kind of entertaining the way that they handled it. On the other hand, it's a little bit of an annoyance, and then also just the pesteringness of them, and then our desire to just teach these brats a lesson took away from the actual thing that we were trying to accomplish in the game. So it's like, was that a good experience or not? I don't know. It was fun at times. It was not fun at times. I don't know. But anyway, that's sort of kind of a microcosm of what the Sea of Thieves experience can be.
It is hard to say. It's a lot of E sounds, and there's some
hard
consonants.
I did not sleep much last night, Brian. So
as it turns out, I'm not sold on it. So that's probably not going to change. But I do think it's interesting that like it is. As a game, like it's really kind of held on there, like
stuck around.
Yeah, and I would have thought, like, look, you're talking about like an Xbox game made by Rare, like, oftentimes, like we've seen this story before, and it's usually like, all right, we're out, and this sucks. But it's like the fact that it's like this little engine that could, or maybe now it's a big engine that could, like that to me is interesting at least.
Well, and very recently, the biggest criticism in gaming right now is largely against so-called extraction shooters. And that's a multiplayer gaming experience, and that's more PvP than PvE. But everybody's kind of getting sick of that. I mean, it's sort of topical. The game Concord just released, right? I don't know if you see the data on this. This is bleeding edge data.
Oh yeah, but you can go ahead and talk to the people about it.
So this game launched, I think it was yesterday.
Yeah.
And yesterday it peaked at 600 players on Steam.
Yeah.
This is, I think, a first-party Sony game.
It's 100% a first-party Sony game. That's the game that they led their summer showcase off with.
With like a 15-minute thing. And they were expecting... What's that movie that just came out that was like... Borderlands, right? Yeah. That was like a mega flop.
Now, that remake of The Crow is in competition for the other worst movie of the year.
I didn't.
So... And I want to see both desperately.
There's a lot of bad stuff out there to catch up on.
But to be honest, I want to see The Crow more than Borderlands because it looks that much cringier. So
I didn't actually even see the trailer for it, so I don't know.
Looks real bad. It looks real bad. He's a fucking DJ because of course he's a DJ. And he meets the girl in rehab and they bond over doing drugs and being DJs. I mean, mwah, mwah, mwah. I can't wait to see it.
They made it just for you, Brian.
They sure did. Me and the 6 people that will watch it at the Dollar Theater.
All right. So anyway, extraction shooters are kind of much maligned right now as sort of an example of the negative multiplayer experience. So it's not all milk and honey out there, but this particular way of doing it, where it's PvE mostly, and then at least in Sea of Thieves PvP a little bit. But then the other 2 games I mentioned, Deep Rock Galactic and Helldivers, are strictly PvE. That is an infinitely better way to experience multiplayer gaming, and I do recommend it for anyone.
You know, I'll do just a quick little side shout out, and then maybe we'll talk about some of like our favorite ever multiplayer experiences. But there's a game that I believe it's still on Xbox. Probably nobody playing it now, but when it first came out, it was it had that nice Game Pass bump. But it's called Exoprimal, and it was a Capcom-developed game that had a bunch of dinosaurs in it, and everyone wanted it to be a new Dino Crisis game, and it wasn't, but that's okay.
Yeah.
But the way it was actually genuinely really fun. You would play like a chunk where it's like you had like 4 sequences, and then once that's done, then you get thrown out to a lobby and do the whole thing all over. But like each thing was kind of unique, and it's Capcom, so it also had a little bit of Monster Hunter feel to it and like the gameplay. But the last round, a player would be randomly selected to be a dinosaur, and you just walk around and just chomp fools. And the times that I got to be selected to be like a T-Rex was just so much fun.
I'm eating you. Yeah. I'm eating you.
Yeah, it's really, really good. But yeah, that game I don't think it got any. I think it's still on Game Pass. You can still check it out, but like it's probably in the low dozens of players now is my guess. But that Concord thing is crazy. It's crazy. And I remember instantly seeing that and instantly thinking like, well, I'll never play this. And
me
it
too.
looks like RC Cola fucking Guardians of the Galaxy.
And everybody said that also.
The public said it, yeah. Like everyone had the same feeling. And it's kind of rare when something of that magnitude and of that pizzazz has like this uniform like scoffing.
And Sony doesn't miss with their first party offerings very often, and when they do miss, they don't miss that badly. And what a weird year for them, because the game that got some marketing but not a ton of hype, Helldivers, way exceeded their expectations. And then a few months later, they released Concord, which they put a ton of hype in marketing into, and then that falls flat on its face.
Yeah. So
I'm sure if you were in a Sony board meeting in January, you would have assumed that Concord would do better than Helldivers, and instead it's the exact opposite.
Yeah, just nope. Okay, well, why don't we do this? Let's do, we'll do tit for tat. Talk about some of your all-time favorite multiplayer experiences. But let's start with, hit the recesses of your mind and tell me, I'll start this, but what's the earliest multiplayer, online specifically, multiplayer experience that you've ever had? So while you think about this, I could tell you mine, because it's easy, and you'll never guess what this was.
Okay.
But so in our household, we did not have the internet until 1999, I think, 99 or 2000, and of course, still it was dial-up. But so we were late to the dance on that, and we always had very underpowered PCs because PCs are expensive, and functionally, my sister and I only use them to like write papers. Outside of Commander Keen and Wolfenstein 3D, and of course the original Duke Nukem games, never been that big of a PC gamer. I'm a DOS man, and I will die on that hill. But
Die on the hill.
But so I had a Dreamcast when it first came out, because of course I did. And the Dreamcast famously came shipped, first home console to be shipped with a modem attached to it.
Oh, yeah.
Later, that modem became a broadband modem, which today, if you one of those bad boys on eBay, is like $400, which is really stupid.
Yeah.
But anyway, you would get this like card that gave you like you would have to pay by the hour to access online gaming. And then SegaNet was not all of them did this back then. Like all these little, startup net companies that would have like this is GamerNet or whatever it was, or GameSpy and all this other shit.
Yeah, the one we played was called Cali.
There you go.
Yeah.
But they did it. They charged you by the hour, so you'd buy like hours of gaming. We can go way back and talk about like Sierra Online. My wife actually, her family had the internet like in the early '90s, and she would play a bunch of games with like Sierra Online.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's wild stuff. But anyway, so for me, first online multiplayer experience I ever had that I can recall at my own home was NFL 2K for the Sega Dreamcast.
Of all things.
Yeah, of all things.
Yeah.
I played a, and for what it's worth, those NFL 2K games,
It's
pretty damn good.
And that was one of the better ones.
That first one was
Yeah.
pretty damn good, and like no one had seen anything like it in terms of like the graphical fidelity. And
Definitely.
people would talk about like, is that a real football game?
Yes.
But yeah, I played this online football game, and it was like this like kind of magical experience. It was just like, I can't believe I just played with someone over there. And I was always jealous of like kids who had X-Band and all that other shit.
We all were.
That one, X-Band, you had to pay by the minute. And there was a long distance fee attached to that for the phone. 2 separate charges to play a terrible version of Mortal Kombat 2 online.
Yeah. Or
which is awesome.
NHL 94 was part of that, wasn't
Yes,
it?
yeah, sure was. And you could send each other electronic mail. And it's 128K cash, so you could store like 2 emails in that bad boy.
Your mom sucks!
Yeah, got him! That cost me $12. Worth every penny.
Yeah.
So that was it for me. NFL 2K on the Dreamcast was my first online multiplayer experience. What about you?
So very first multiplayer. So the question I have for you is, are we talking about just playing a game with a human being that's not like a couch co-op thing, that's like they're somewhere else in the world?
This is you playing a game on the internet with a person. It can be a friend or a stranger. Just the earliest memory of that you have.
So I'm really late to the party on this, and it might actually be, if you don't count LANing, then it would probably be World of Warcraft. In fact, I'm trying to think.
You never played like Counter-Strike?
Counter-Strike, obviously. Yeah. I mean, that's competitive.
Yeah.
But that's against people, not with people.
No, it's multiplayer. It's online multiplayer.
Well,
That's
sure.
what we're talking about.
Okay, so then Counter-Strike would be the answer. And in fact, the first time I ever played Counter-Strike, I was so freaked out by it that when I like ran through a hall or something, and somebody turned a corner, and I saw them, and reacted in the game exactly how I would react in real life. And then, like the bullets go up through the ceiling.
Of course.
Yeah, there's a person.
I didn't sign up for this.
Yeah. So it would be Counter-Strike, which involves my brother setting up computers and having to explain to me what the hell this is, and then also having to explain that this is not a game you go to Best Buy to buy, but you actually download it, and then you have to have Half-Life actually.
Yeah, like the whole the layers of that cake were just like,
yeah, it was just,
what are you even talking about? Yeah.
Yeah. Is this Half-Life or is it Counter-Strike? Yeah. Half-Life's a multiplayer game? What? And then eventually we figured it all out, and this was to very date myself. I believe we were playing Counter-Strike in like it was version 1.2, something like that. But this is circa late 1999, early 2000, I believe. Okay. It was like fall of 99, maybe.
Yeah, for me, like that NFL 2K thing is the first time I ever played online multiplayer at my own house, my own dwelling, with my own gear. My neighbor, who was a big PC guy, who producer Chris knew really well too.
Yeah, you're so lucky to have him because you mentioned him a few times.
Lucky. I don't know.
Is this another glass half full?
Yeah, he's kind of weird. Not like diddle me weird, but just weird.
A guy who's really into computers being weird.
I know, what a shocker. But he played. I remember watching him play, and then me like very sheepishly trying to play and I wasn't very good at it at all. But like Duke Nukem 3D Online, that kind of stuff. That there was like a Quake mod That was the original Capture the Flag. That was super cool looking.
Unreal Tournament was big back then. Rocket Arena was Quake. Quake 3 came out in 2000.
Well, Rocket Arena is Quake 2, I believe, and then and then Quake 3 was just like, oh hey, we should take that guy's idea and make a whole game like that. But yeah, so I think that it's funny, like when you think about it, like for time being this bastard of a thing, like it doesn't feel like it's that long ago, but we're talking about shit that's like
at this point,
it's like 25 years ago. It's nuts. It's wild. Like these memories can now legally rent a car, which is crazy.
And I remember playing World of Warcraft in like 2004, 5, and 6, and then thinking back on playing Counter-Strike, and it felt like a long time ago then, but also not. It was like, man, I can't believe that was 5 years ago. I was playing Counter-Strike. Seems like just yesterday, but it's already been 5 years. And now that was 20 years ago from when I was playing World of Warcraft, and 25 years ago from when I was playing Counter-Strike. So the time does march on, which is why if you have a chance to put a plug in time, and to just live the way that you did back then, at the mere cost of everything else in your life,
your cardiovascular system,
you just gotta do that.
I get it. I get it.
You can't afford not to make these commitments.
You can't leave that money on the table. You can't. Okay, so those are the earliest memories. Give me rattle off a few of like when you look back, and obviously you can, if you've got, and I know you do, you've got some WoW experience and stuff like that. What are some of the keystone memories of you playing multiplayer games in your illustrious career of being a dork? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think this is going to be almost entirely WoW. If I think about my life and like what the top memories are, certainly I'll just mention two specific things that we did. One was the very first Ragnaros kill that we got in World of Warcraft.
Was that the one that we were a friend of ours and I were in Sweden when you did that? Is that the same one?
Yes, we practiced for a month. Mm-hmm. This was great. So you and I, Bri, backpacked through Europe.
Yep.
And during at least the second half of that trip, it was like, okay, cool. The Eiffel Tower, got it. When are we getting back? I've got a raid in a couple
I've got a Ragnaros to overthrow.
We practiced on that dude for a month. Like a solid month of meeting up 3 hours a night for 3 times a week. Like just just working on him. And then not only did we practice the fight, but then when you're outside of doing that, you would have to get like ingredients for potions that you would have to have equipped during the fight. And I remember every time I went to equip a potion, just for this like 5-minute fight, it'd be like, well, there's 2 hours of work it took me to get that potion down the drain.
So it's fun.
This 5-minute fight, we're going to die again. But and this was in those days, your WoW raid had 40 people in it. And our guild had, it was a United Nations of sorts, of Americans and Swedes and Germans and other Scandinavians. And when we worked together to get that first kill, it wasn't like the first kill in the world, but it was a pretty rare feat then. Mm-hmm. It really felt like you were a part of something greater than yourself.
Well, I'll jump in here too, because I'm a part of this story, but from an outsider's perspective, it's like, I don't know, 3:30 in the morning, 4 in the morning, and we're sleeping in your apartment in Malmö, Sweden, and you guys obviously win that fight, but I was shooken out of a deep sleep because you were like screaming, like. And when I mean screaming, I mean like a guttural, like
primal,
like a holy shit, what's happening? And then to go from a sleeping state to hearing your friend like just screaming bloody murder.
Robby, who's raping you?
Yeah, totally. Like I thought I was gonna have to kill a burglar who's raping my pal.
Then you remembered it was Sweden.
Yeah,
there's no crime here.
Yeah, there's no issue here. Someone just came into your room and put a bunch of oral tobacco in your lips, and you're like, oh, thanks for that buzz. But yeah, that was like, I didn't get, like, I've never gotten WoW, but I get in terms of like the building up towards having like this like huge thing, and regardless of the game or not, like, this could be in Madden, like if you're playing like in shit. I understand if it's shit that I don't care about, it doesn't matter. Like I understand like the scope of something like this, and boy did I hear it, because that's how that was presented to me, and probably peed a little at the volume of that screen.
No regrets on this end of the table.
Sure.
That really was like something else. And there was a recording of it for a while that we had. I sent it to my then girlfriend, now wife, like, hey babe, check out what I did. So,
Yeah.
the best part of that story, by the way.
That's how you bagged her, by the way, too. Absolutely.
The best part of that story is that I was up till 3:30 a.m. in the morning playing. Because can you imagine a life where you're playing video games? I mean, really.
It's like literally almost 20 years ago, and you're still doing it.
Build up a tolerance. This is like eating Dr. Pepper or eating Taco Bell and drinking Dr. Pepper. You build up a tolerance early, and then it just carries you.
It's a biological wall that you've you've established to protect you from the, we'll say, bad sides of eating Taco Bell and drinking Dr. Pepper.
This is I'm gonna actually tell a story about that same unspoken friend. We can cut this out if you want to, but he wouldn't brush his teeth, but he drank obscene amounts of Mountain Dew, and then was convinced that like the Mountain Dew destroyed the dirt on his teeth.
I absolutely remember this, so and I won't be cutting this out.
Right up until like literally a part of his front tooth rotted out of. Anyway,
video games. Nothing bad comes from this subculture ever.
Oh my god! All right, let me tell my second story real quick. Oh man, I'm like the second intense episode.
Flashes, yeah.
Jesus Christ, I'm like so intense right now, bro. Oh man, oh Lord, the glasses were off.
I see it.
Okay, so I come back to America, still playing WoW, but now I'm with an American guild. And there was a boss in the game called Cthulhu, who was one of the elder gods, dark gods, some kind of god. And the gimmick in that fight, genius design by the way by Blizzard, is that he would shoot a laser, and if you were close enough to another player, the laser would bounce from one player to another, and then do a bunch of damage. And the more times it bounced, the more the damage became. So if you got 3 or 4 players grouped up together, bounce, 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 and then everybody's dead. So everybody had to stay spaced out. But then the fight was also set up, so you had a whole bunch of mechanics where you would have to move around. So everybody's got to work together as one cohesive unit to stay away from each other, but still be able to move around in the fight.
Right.
At one point in the fight, he would eat players, and then he spits you out. And so when you would get spit out by the boss, you're like, oh God, I got to get away from everyone. And so that was another one where it took us several weeks to do. And it only takes one person to start the chain reaction to kind of screw it up for everyone. And when we got that kill, and I still have a screenshot of it now, the egomaniac in me was like, when we got the screenshot for the website, as you did back then, you had to take...
You had to.
You had to stand in front of the corpse, and you'd get a screen grab, and...
By the way, I have so many screenshots of me and Monster Hunter posing with
your
freshly murdered,
carcasses.
Yeah, with a freshly murdered monster that was doing nothing other than like feeding its young. By the way, but go ahead.
So I made sure I was front. That one felt really, really good, and I was like, guys, I'm gonna be front center here. And my little gnome character, I was like, I really want this one. So that was probably the height of my WoW gaming in the U.S. But it's sort of the same principle. And the principle carries through to today. When you accomplish something, it's like the Sir Edmund Hillary thing about Mount Everest.
Yeah.
Why do you climb it? Because it's there. So when you actually do that, and particularly when you work with other people to do it, and then especially in my life, when you work with 39 other people to actually accomplish this thing, in my gaming life, there's no greater feeling of euphoria or accomplishment or whatever else. I've had some very good moments in single player games where the game really emotionally resonates with you, and like, man, I was really emotionally affected by this. But the highest of the highs, by far, every single one of them, the top 5, top 10, it's all multiplayer gaming, and usually the more people that I was with experiencing it, the better.
It amps it all up, yeah. So for me, all of my favorite memories of online gaming are real modern for the most part, and they all have to do with the dark times of COVID. Just because there was so much uncertainty. There was so much hey, am I ever gonna see my friends and family ever again or any of that shit? And so you were basically your only outlet if you're a part of this hobby and had friends and family who were into this hobby too. That was the only thing that you had to do. So Animal Crossing on the Switch, which is funny that looking back now in totality, it is nowhere near my favorite Animal Crossing game that they've done, but it's by far the one I've spent the most time on.
Yeah.
And it's 100% because of COVID.
Perfectly timed release. Didn't it come out in June of 2000?
The day the state of California shut down, it was well, here's Animal Crossing. Yeah, it was nuts. What a fucking and it became I think it's the number 2 selling Switch game, like right behind Mario Kart 8, which is the game that will not die.
Right.
So anyway, that game ruled. Like staying in touch with friends and family, playing it was so much fun.
Didn't you and I didn't we try a Tetris variant one night playing multiplayer?
Oh yeah, we played Tetris Effect. which is great.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
game's awesome.
Yeah, that was pretty fun.
I recommend that game for PSVR 2 for the 6 of you that still have your PSVR.
I'm one of them.
But yeah, then obviously goes without saying, Monster Hunter like changed the way I think about online multiplayer gaming. Pound for pound, some of the most fun I've ever had in a video game ever was playing that game online.
And when you say playing it online, were you playing it with just Prince, or can you play?
It was like,
or were you playing with randoms
So
as well?
I played a tiny bit single player because you can. Like maybe if you want to break it down in percentages, I would say maybe 10% single player. 60% just me and him, the Prince, and then 25 would have been with the Party Bison, so as a trio, as a killer trio, and then that whatever the numbers left over would be with bringing in ringers, which every so often you would encounter a monster that was just like, we're not getting this done, and again going back to my limited attention span, like I'm getting close to my 2-hour limit, and I really need to beat this dude, so. And then, but that was always a crapshoot though, because like you would sometimes get like this just like total Rambo killing machine that you could just basically just sit back and they will beat the boss for you, and then you just sneak in like a parasite and get all your loot, and then sometimes they would completely just ruin everything for you, and you could never predict, you would never know, and that was kind of part of the fun. Honestly, was like when you roll the dice for a ringer and just hopefully you get that killing machine. So that was a lot of fun. A thing that you brought up way earlier that I wanted to mention here too, emergent gameplay. So Grand Theft Auto 4 and Grand Theft Auto 5, the only multiplayer or online stuff I've ever done with either one of those games is joining up with a friend or a couple friends and like creating our own games within, like I never did, and GTA Online is it's a multi-billion-dollar industry unto itself. It's the reason why GTA 6 is taking so long to come out. Because they're trying to figure out a way to how are they going to continue to monetize this behemoth of a thing. But so we would get online, especially we did this a lot more in 4 than 5, but we just join up and talk about like what are we going to do now. So it's like we came up with games where it's like you would get into a car and like you'd try to blow it up to just enough to where like if you breathe on this car, it's going to explode all the way and kill you. And like we created like a version of hot potato with it. Where like you'd have to like jump out of the car and then someone else would jump in, but then like keep it from blowing up, and just making up things and like finding different jumps to go off of, and just being idiots, like, but online. And that to me is magical. Like any sort of, I love that stuff, and that's why I'm a big with my son who's gonna be 10. Like I'm a big believer in things like Minecraft and Roblox because like him and his friends like and they utilize them to be creative. And like, there's a lot that you can say negative about both those games in terms of like they're kind of predatory with like monetization and all that other stuff.
Yeah. Well, Roblox, I think more so than Minecraft, right?
Yeah, but Minecraft is certainly it's no angel in the we're not going to steal parents' money category. But like I'm all for it. Like just because it's not something that like it's not necessarily is for me, but like seeing what my son is capable of doing. Like on Roblox Studio, like where he'll like invent games that are specifically for like him and his group of friends to play together, and like that stuff to me is like it's fantastic. And if I was a kid, now I would be doing the exact same stuff.
Yeah, the creative outlet.
It's the Mario Paint of this generation, which is I don't say that lightly. Mario Paint is such an incredible and powerful tool.
I'm not sure what you're talking about, Brian. I tried. The fly swatter game is, above average.
Yeah.
That's fine. I'm not sure what you do with the rest of it.
That fly swatter game is far north of average, sir. But yeah, I'll say this too, because I just thought of it right now, but I wanted to mention it. Real special shout out to Warhawk on the PS3 way back when.
I think I remember that.
That game was super duper fun, and it was like big battles. It was like 30 people versus 30 people, and you would be in the air and you'd be on the ground. Yeah. That was another game that I had a PS3 really early on, and for that first like 2 years of the PS3, well, maybe 1.5. Like for me, all I had was Virtua Fighter 5, which is why I bought a PS3. and then Warhawk. And then eventually, like, the first Uncharted game came out, and then Call of Duty 4. But in that first window of PlayStation 3, when it was like, famously you had to take out a second mortgage on your home to buy it because those were the rules that Sony laid out for you.
Back in the time, yeah.
Warhawk was an incredibly fun game. I remember figuring out putting mines on a Jeep and then driving your Jeep that was covered in mines into another player's base and just like being a kamikaze warrior. So much fun. So much fun. And then the last one I'll mention, and I've talked about this on the show before, but because we're on the topic of multiplayer, it fits here. But the original Demon's Souls on PS3, being a Red Phantom and invading someone else's game.
And
ruining, and I mean ruining their day by beating them. And there was another thing that I don't think we've talked about on the show, but there was and I really want From to do this again, and I don't know why they haven't, and it's probably some above my pay grade technical reason. But in the original Demon's Souls, there was a boss that was player controlled. And whenever you would go online in this particular part of the game, at random you would be like summoned to be this boss, and you were super powerful, and you would brutally murder players, and it was so satisfying because no one's talking. It's just
it's just death.
This is just a random thing where like,
right.
Look, buddy, you want to beat this boss? I'm the boss. We're not going to talk. I'm going to do my best to smash you like a bug, and I'm going to get a charge from that. And oftentimes I was on the receiving end of that as well. So to be the smasher and not the ant felt incredible.
Do you? It's not quite the same thing, but we talked about Death Stranding, and I can't wait for Death Stranding 2 to come out. That's next year, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a 2025.
Okay, that's good. Because when I was fairly critical of the game when we talked about it, and when I originally played it and reviewed it, and then since then, my opinion has warmed up a little bit. Maybe it's just a Kojima thing. It's like the games have to marinate in your brain for a while.
They absolutely do.
But the multiplayer part of it, and it's like I use that term very loosely, right? Because there's no actual people in the game. It's just people sort of working together cohesively. So it's like, is it multiplayer? Is it not multiplayer? But that thing in particular, I've been thinking more about as something that was really fun that I want to see in more games, and nobody's really done it.
Yeah, it's definitely a Stranding exclusive.
Yeah,
type of
and I just thought of it because of how much you were saying you enjoyed interacting with other people without having to communicate with them at all.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that's a really good example. It was Death Stranding.
No, and it's a great example, and I think that's the key, the thing that. So as a total Kojima fanboy, Death Stranding was a disappointment in that it didn't, gameplay wise, it didn't live up to so many other games that he's famous for. But all of the weird ideas and all like the world and all that cool stuff, like he knocked it out of the park with that. So and chief among those is this like asymmetric, we're all working together to like literally build out this world. Like you would make things that look like freeway overpasses over time. Yeah. So if he can really dial that in and then add that ever important gameplay thing into Death Stranding 2.
Just add some gameplay.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it's shaping up to be something that like I won't be so foolish as to say that's predicting that's the game of the year, because that's not my style.
Well, we do have a Monster Hunter game coming out next year too, Brian.
That's the game of the year.
Oh, and I've heard a Grand Theft something or other is supposed to be coming out next year. That's getting a little bit of hype.
Yeah, it's going to get delayed.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, Death Stranding is I think Death Stranding 2 has the potential is very high with that one, and it's specifically because of this weird new way of thinking about multiplayer. So, friend, I think with that we've run along here. This is a big topic to tackle. I feel like we've adequately tackled it.
I think so. I got everything that I wanted out of this episode. I haven't done this in a prior episode, but I am going to give a few shout-outs right now because...
That's your camera. Shout away, Fred.
All right. Soul, Dream, Zenmaster, Rhiannon, Mundo, Sean, and to a lesser extent, Harrison. All of you have made my life better, and I'm really enjoying all the gaming that we do. And as long as I don't die of a heart attack the next few months, then this has been great, and thank you for giving that to me.
Well, there we go. That was a nice warm fuzzy. It's not something we get here on the Midlife Krisis.
Feeling good right now.
Yeah, feeling clearly.
Well, it's almost prime time for me. So.
Naturally, yes. It's time for your midday snack.
In the episode, go get the stimulants.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I get it. We all have to be our own mover and shaker. Yeah. Thank you for watching this one. Like, subscribe, tell your friends. We're on Spotify. Leave comments. That always helps with the algorithm gods on this new media horseshit train that we're all desperately tethered to. And yeah, I would say on behalf of my good associate here, play a video game with a friend.
Yes.
It will keep you alive. Yeah. Like a shark. You don't stop swimming. Don't stop swimming now.
Or else, yeah, it'll make you happy. Having a good Calypso, forgot to mention her. So yeah, we're
very good. Very good, and thank you so much for watching.